The E2 visa allows for investors to set up a business in the US and develop and direct that business, provided they have invested a substantial amount in that business operation. And you could be a company that's operating outside of the US, looking to set up in the US. That could warrant an E2 visa. Or you could be an individual who has capital to put into a new setup. You could also be looking to set up something completely new, a new business. You could be looking to buy a franchise business, or you could also be looking to buy into an existing business. So there are many ways to get an E2 visa. But then you also have to look then at the investment. What are you putting into that business? What kind of capital are you putting into the business to show that the business will be operational? In a case where a business is already operational, you want to show that you're putting enough money in to show commitment, to show that you're making an irrevocable commitment and that you are making an at-risk investment. You then also have to look at, is the business real and operating, or is it going to be real and operating by the time you get the visa to go to the US to run the business? So real and operating would be having all the foundational things in place, the structure in place to run the business. And again, that would be things like business licenses and corporate bank accounts and supplier contracts and taxpayer identification numbers and a lease for a business premises or perhaps a warehouse space that might be needed. So all of that has to actually be in place. Those agreements have to all be in place to show that the business is real and operating enterprise. You then have to look at the source of the funding. The embassy looks closely at the source of the funding for that investment. And is it a legitimate source? Is it from earnings? If you're an individual, maybe you've been running a business in the UK and you're using those earnings to set up a business in the US. That would apply. Those would be legitimate source of funds. Maybe it's a company that's using company earnings, a big company that's using earnings and funneling them to the US. That's legitimate source of funds. An individual might sell a property and use the proceeds of that to put into a business. So it has to be traceable, it has to be quantifiable, and there has to be a paper trail for those funds. It's quite important to document that closely. And then lastly, look at the individual who is looking to go to the US. What are their skills? What are their qualifications? If they're running the business, what skills do they have? Is it the same industry that they've been working in for years, or are they taking a different direction and maybe they're able to transfer the skills from their current role to that US position? There has to be some logical nexus between what that person's background is and what the business is that they're going to run. And if it's an individual looking to work as an employee of the company, they have to have the nationality of the treaty country, and they have to have skills that are useful in the US. So specifically, they have to have skills that are essential to the US operation. And a company would be well served in being able to explain why a US worker can't perform the job, because the embassy wants to understand why that person's needed and why a local person couldn't perform the role. And so those are the factors to consider with an E2 visa.